Not escape the ordinary and embark on a journey of self-discovery at our transformational Revive and Thrive retreat. Experience moments of clarity, find inner peace and unlock your true potential, surrounded by breathtaking natural beauty. There is only one spot left for our Revive and Thrive retreat this May. Don't miss your chance to join this life-changing experience with the most incredible group of women who are all cheering each other on. There is one more place available. Transform your life and reserve your place today.
Hello and welcome to the Mod Life podcast. I am your host, Elle Mace, and today we are joined by Amina.
Hi.
Hello. We are live today in London. How are you?
I'm good. Nice day. Nice morning.
Yeah.
Quite warm.
It's too warm for London because of the tubes.
I was sweating in my blazer as well. Not even wearing a coat today, but yeah.
That's sad that you just get all ready, don't you? Well, for me, because I'm obviously not in London, in my hotel room. And then I just get onto that tube and I just think, oh my gosh, I need a shower. Oh,
Yeah.
Where about, are you close to central London or do you commute in?
I'm southwest, but it
Okay.
took me about 30 minutes to get pretty much everywhere. So it's like, whether it's here or Shoreditch, it's about 30 minutes. So it's good.
Amazing. So just start, because everyone's listening thinking, who is this? Tell us, who are you? What do you currently do right now?
Oh God, you put me on the spot like that. So I am a creative.
Yeah.
I am a model and I work in marketing. So at the minute I work as a marketing manager at a studio here in London.
Yeah, amazing. A studio that I definitely want to go to for some breath work. Model, creator, what does that look like for you at the moment? What do you do with being a model?
So at the minute, it's actually been just quite slow and I've kind of put it on the back burner a little bit since coming to London and been focusing on the other side of my career a little bit more. But I've been modeling for about 3 years. So from campaign shoots to UGC content to collaboration with brands, to creating the content with other people in it as well. So that's where the creative part kind of comes in. So I'm not necessarily always in the stuff that I film or create. But yeah, that's kind of the gist.
Amazing. So what we're going to do now is just going to go all the way back to the start, if you don't mind. Your eyes are like, no.
Childhood trauma.
Exactly. But this is why we're here, so that people listening can learn from those who have been through it. So talk to us. What does life look like for little Amina? What was going on for you? Where are you from? Who's your family? What was the start?
So I'll try to be as quick as possible with this.
That's okay. We got ages.
So I was born in Ukraine.
Yeah.
My mom is Ukrainian. My dad is Algerian. My dad left Algeria when he was a kid. So his dad passed and he kind of lost his roots a little bit. So when I was about 10, my mom and my stepdad, so my parents separated very, very young, but they remained really good friends. So I was quite lucky in that regard that I had two families and they were pretty united. So yeah, when I was 10, my stepdad had made the decision to move to China. So at 10, my mom was like, we're packing our bags and we're moving to China. It's like, what is China? Like, at 10, I don't understand the world. But yeah, we ended up moving to China and I didn't see my actual dad or that side of the family for about 3 years, because we lived so far away. And in 2014 as well, it was the first conflict between Russia and Ukraine happened as well. So we just didn't go back. And yeah, I was growing up in China. I was the only white kid in my school. It was before the city where we lived actually became the city that it is now. It's Shenzhen, so it's the center of electronics. So many expats live there now, but back then there was no one. So being on the tube, being on buses and trains, like people would come up and touch my hair. They would like try to touch my skin. Like my sister as a baby would get grabbed all the time. Like people wanted to touch her skin and her cheeks. Chinese people just had this obsession with the Western look per se. And then I got grabbed by a photographer while being at like a playground or something, and he told my mom like, she needs to be a model. Like we can get her in. And within like 2 months, I shot my first campaign with Huawei, the phone company.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I didn't really do it. Didn't really do modeling until like later in life. It's funny how things like sometimes just circle back around.
Yes.
Kind of put it on the back burner and just didn't really do much with it. Went to school and was kind of that kid that was decent at school, but was like, this is a waste of time. Like, what am I doing here? So I ended up getting a job my senior year of high school and pretty much missed all of my classes. My counselor, who was like a mom at the time as well, she was like, you do realize like you won't graduate if you don't get your shit together. Like, I mean, I just need you to pass these exams and you're good. And I was like, yeah, I will. And I like passed my exam like a day before the deadline for like the graduation papers.
Oh God.
But I did it, and yeah, teachers, like apart from close ones, and parents were like, what is this child doing? I was living on my own at the time as well.
Wow. So how old were you then? 16?
17. Yeah, when I was 16, my parents basically went on holiday for business, and we all got rejected our Chinese visas. So my parents couldn't go back to China, and neither could I. But I was like, my friends are there, school is there, like I've got 2 years left to graduate, like you can't just relocate me now.
Wow.
And so I had to really fight my parents on it, and my mom was luckily on my side, and she ended up convincing my stepdad to let me go back to China. I got a scholarship, and like I went back and lived with someone that my mom knew for a bit, but that didn't work out. Like we were just clashing, and I told my mom, like, look, she's not told you where I am for the last week. I've been out with friends, I've gotten home late, like I might as well tell you this myself. So to avoid the hassle for both of you and both of us, I'm just going to move out to my own place. And my mom was just like, no, like that's absurd. You're 16. You can't just move out. And I was like, but why? Like you can't. That's the one thing my parents could never give me a good reason for anything. Like it was always like, it's just a no.
Yeah. As far as no means no.
And I'm like, but why? Just like tell me why. And I would take it. But you can't even tell me why.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously lived on my own since then. Eventually ended up graduating, took a gap year, didn't go to university. Not by choice, actually. I had a ACL surgery. So my mom was like, we don't know if you're going to be able to move countries, like leave China, pack all your stuff, move to a new country. Like it's too much of a hassle. You won't be able to walk the whole summer. So I ended up taking a gap year in China, and that's kind of when I experimented doing different things, got a little bit dabbled into modeling, but was rejected quite a lot for like, I had too young of a face, wasn't really suitable for the brands, all this other stuff. And then dabbled into marketing and teaching and all these other things I thought I wanted to do.
Too young of a face. People are spending thousands to have a young face.
I think it's because they were the sort of brands that they were, all the plus size and curve section was very much like older women, or like on the older side.
They wanted to target more like 30 plus, 40 plus.
Yes. So it was a lot of like wholesale and a lot of like, it wasn't very cute clothes per se, so it wouldn't be stuff that I would actually wear. So it was targeted more towards like the older women. And I think that's why. But also at the time, like I have a baby face anyway. You can imagine only then, like I just looked like a kid with boobs. So I think for them it was like, this really isn't it. And then spent my gap year kind of dabbling into things, trying things, and then moved to Bali. Because university just didn't work out for that year. So I was like, I'm going to take another gap year. I'll go to Bali. I had a podcast. I was actually editing a podcast. That was my job. I was like, I can do this anywhere. Let me just go to Bali and see what it's about. It wasn't even about like finding myself or anything like that. It was just digital nomad hub. Let me try to work from there, see what happens. All these travel bloggers live there. All these creators live there. Like, I just want to try. So yeah, ended up moving there, and then COVID happened.
Oh yeah, of course.
So it was horrible, but it was also a blessing in disguise. Like I could have not imagined spending that time anywhere else. And I went on a mad healing journey, self-exploration journey. I started modeling full time there. I build my own like little agency and have my own social media clients. So I had to got to do what I loved while also like living in the sun, and it was a beautiful experience. And then I actually ended up becoming friends with most of the people that I followed on Instagram, which was quite like a crazy full circle moment from like being on YouTube and watching these videos about a life in a place and admiring these people for the life they've created and like what they share. to them just being at dinner with them and just like realizing that everyone is human, but also like such a full circle moment.
That is so amazing, isn't it? When you kind of like been idolizing somebody, or maybe not even just a person, but the way they live or whatever. And then suddenly you have that pinching moment of like, actually, I'm sat with them and they're just a person like I am.
Yeah.
Like they just do everything that we do. They're just normal. Like,
and then you start to live the same life, like maybe not to that extreme extent, right? But like, you idolize that life and then boom, like you kind of manifest being in it. Like, I remember being at a dinner and just looking around and thinking, this is actually crazy.
Yeah. You manifested this.
Yeah.
You visualized it, you believed it. Oh yeah, big manifestation supporter here.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's taken us to, so that was during COVID or after COVID?
This was all during COVID.
During COVID. Okay. So that was actually, like you say, a blessing for you.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what happened after COVID?
So COVID ended and it was kind of hard to imagine life elsewhere. I had gone on holiday to see my parents and realized that the world was still quite like affected by COVID. Like people were still wearing masks everywhere. Quite like certain places I went to were still quite cautious about like contact. And to me, because we didn't really have that, I was like, this is actually crazy. Like, I don't think I can live like this. Like you could see humans, like people start getting scared when someone like sneezes or coughs. And I was like, this is actually brutal.
Yeah.
Like you could see the hostility people had towards each other as well.
Oh yeah.
Which was really like scary, but also like a big wake up moment because we didn't really have that. And so I came to London for the first time when I left Bali after COVID, was here for 4 days, and within the first like hour I was like, yep, this is the place, like I have to move here next. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I had no plan, but I knew that, you know, it was too early to do it now. So I said, let me go back to Bali. I give myself 3 months, 5 months tops. I'm going to leave during the summer and then start a new adventure like elsewhere. Like it was time to go. It was time to leave. Bali wasn't the same anymore with the flood of tourists and traffic, and it wasn't the same. Which is why a lot of expats ended up leaving anyway, or like creating kind of a hub elsewhere than coming back to Bali for the winter. So and again, very unfortunately to me, the war started. So being away from family then also made me realize like I've lived away from family for like so far away for like 5 years. Like it's time to be somewhere closer. And obviously so many things were out of my control anyway, like distance wouldn't have really solved it, but because of the war, the UK offered refugee status to any Ukrainians. So I was lucky to get my visa that way because otherwise, I don't really know if I would have been ever possible to move.
So difficult.
It's so difficult. Like US, UK, like I don't think people realize this. As someone from like Eastern Europe or any other country that's not in the European Union, moving to the UK or US or Canada or Australia is so difficult, especially the UK. When I talk to people now, I realize a lot of people don't have the awareness. They think because a lot of people from Europe move here and vice versa that it's easy, but it's actually like
no, it's not.
People pray for it. So obviously it's a horrible situation, but my parents were also like, they moved out and they said the same, like this is an opportunity, like this is horrible, but it's an opportunity because we might not ever have a home again, and like we've got to build a life elsewhere, because before it was like we can live abroad but we can always come home, but now home doesn't really exist, so it's like you've got to build that life elsewhere.
So are they in London as well now?
No, so they're in Prague.
Okay,
And they were living in Russia at the time when the war started. And our whole family was like, you need to leave. Like, my brother was 19. They were like, you have to leave. So they drove out basically to the closest place in Europe that wasn't flooded with refugees and just settled there, basically.
Yeah, so scary.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's unbelievable. It's like just unthinkable, isn't it? All these families just literally overnight just up and going.
Yeah. My friend, it's crazy. My Polish friend, her brother and sister and her family was getting people from the border in Poland, and there was a pregnant woman, and they got her in a car and she gave birth within 5 minutes. Like she must have been standing there for like 24 hours trying to cross the border, and then they got her in a car and she literally gave birth almost straight away.
Wow.
Like
unbelievable. I just can't even imagine. You know, I've got 3 small children.
I didn't know you had kids.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've got 3 little babies. Well, 4, 2 and 0. I can't even imagine like them parting with potentially, you know, the dad, their dad, my husband, and because lots of the men had to stay back,
Yeah,
didn't they?
yeah.
Yeah.
Loads. It's just horrible. Yeah, horrible. But yeah, you've gotta like life moves on. Unfortunately, like for me and my family, we didn't have such strong ties. Like we had the opportunity to move. Like it's just honestly such a blessing, and like I'm so grateful that my stepdad left Ukraine when he did, to also look for opportunities in life elsewhere, because that's why like I'm able to be here and live the life that I do.
Yeah, it sounds like your whole family have traveled a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my parents are quite big travelers. So.
yeah. Okay, so wow. And so this takes us now to almost like coming up to the last year or two, isn't it? The last 2 years. So you decided to stay in London. You got your visa.
So yeah, so I went to Bali. Went back to Bali when I gave myself the 3-4 months, whatever. I ended up leaving in June, going to Prague to be with my parents. Actually went back to Ukraine during the war and then spent like 24 hours there, came back out, and then went to a festival, met my ex-boyfriend who was from London, and as soon as he said where he was from, I just knew that was my sign that London was gonna be the place. So ended up going on a trip with him to Paris, coming back from the trip and being like, I need to apply for my visa now.
Yeah,
I cannot wait to see this boy again. I need to go. So I applied for my visa and got it in like a week and a half.
And that's it. Then you're in London.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Literally. And then I ended up here.
And you're living the dream and loving it?
Yes. Not with my ex anymore.
No.
But I honestly see that as like the biggest, like I feel like looking back now, that was like the biggest thing that kind of pulled me here. Like it was the final thing of like, you gotta go. And then when I applied for the visa, I actually realized I didn't have many days left to stay in the EU.
Yeah.
So I literally had like 3 days after I got the visa to pack and go. My mom was like, it means it's time. Go. So
wow.
And here I was.
And so how long have you been in London? When was this?
This was last September.
Wow. So you've actually only been here properly for like
a year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half. Yeah. Okay, fab. Amazing. So I'm going to just like deep dive a little bit in more to you now. So when you say you were in Bali and you were going on your healing journey, what did you think you were healing?
So I was healing, I think, just relationship with my family. So I had gotten in a really big fight with my parents right before leaving to Bali. So we actually went to Vietnam together, and I was going to Bali from there, but we didn't speak the whole entire trip in Vietnam.
Oh wow.
Like we did not speak at all. And my mom's friends were trying to mediate it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just so done. Like I'm just so done. I'm gonna go off, do my own thing, and like see what I can do and what I can become without that like noise all the time of what we want you to be. I've never really had a good relationship with my mom until like recently. Okay. So it was kind of an opportunity for me to shut the world and what their beliefs are, what my beliefs were, what I thought I wanted to be, what I thought was like normal and whatever, shutting all of that off and just kind of going inwards and like surrendering to life to see where I end up. And I knew that if I had that noise, it would be very hard for me to make decisions that were like true to myself. I didn't even know if decisions that I made for myself were true to myself.
Yes.
Because obviously everything is based on what we know and what we're told, right?
Yes.
So I was like, I don't even know if this is me. Like, I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
And I can't tell if who I want to be now is because of everything you've told me. So I just needed to disconnect from the world a little bit.
Yeah.
Which Bali was clearly perfect for
that.
I don't even think I knew about Eat, Pray, Love before I went to Bali.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like 18, didn't really know what it was, didn't really know what spirituality was, and was very much like, I don't believe in anything until you show me proof. And then 6 months later, I was in like female circles holding women that were crying in my arms, like, and you know, that just became so natural. So I kind of dove straight into the spiritual world.
Yeah, amazing. And so did you manage to figure out what had gone on with you and your mum? What was the kind of catalyst, or why did the relationship get to that point?
I think her and I speak about this often now, but I think we just both have really strong personalities, and she had me very young. She was 20. So you can only imagine what a 20-year-old mother back in 2000s can do, right? Like there's no tools. I had amazing grandma and great grandma. Like my great grandma raised me pretty much, and she raised my mom, and like she's raised my sister. But there was always that disconnect with my mom, and my mom is like, she's got an anxious attachment style. So she really like pulls back, and she was quite distant, where I was quite the opposite. Like I was very warm, I needed love and affection, and I never really got that. Which always felt like a bit of a hole. And we just didn't have a close relationship. Like I seeked a lot more like connection, and it's not something that she could give me. So for a long time I was just like, you're just a shit mother, like you just are. Like I, at that point, I was blaming her. Now like I actually feel so much compassion.
Yes,
It's come full circle now, and I have so much compassion. But even when I was in Bali and I was trying to figure out how to navigate the relationship, at the end of the 2 years I went to a healer, and she actually told me, you need to stop trying to fix the relationship. Like you can't do anything about it. Like you've healed yourself. You've become a person that's not attached to her anymore, but you can't force her to heal and force her to understand, because that was the issue. Anytime I would bring anything up, my mom was like, oh, you're just exaggerating. Like it was a lot of gaslighting. And I don't think my mom even knew what gaslighting was, but I was like, you're gaslighting me.
Don't you know, I'm gaslighting.
And I was at a point in Bali where I was like, I'm just never gonna have a relationship with my parents. Like, if you don't want to understand, you don't want to meet halfway, you're just gonna bully me anytime you don't like something that I say, we're just not gonna have a relationship. And I came to terms with that. Like I was at peace with that, of not having any contact with them, of not having them in my life, because in a lot of other aspects I realized how much peace I found. Like it was the most peaceful time of my life as well. And then obviously once I healed all the things I had to heal, I then was like, okay, I think I'm ready to have them back in my life, because I have a solid base that I've created now, and they can just come and add to that. Like they can't take away anything. Whereas when you're a kid, I feel like anytime your parents say anything to you, like it really hurts you, or it really dismotivates you, or really gets to you. Like it's like soul crushing feeling.
Soul crushing.
So I was like, I can't have that, because I'm just not ever gonna get anywhere I want to go to. And so eventually I started letting them back into my life. But that pain and resentment towards my mom was like still there. Like I had so much pain in my heart, and it wasn't going. And like the healer said, she said, just give it time. She didn't say give it time, she just said stop trying to fix it. And at that point I'd already said, like, I am done fixing it. Like my mom and I just kind of pretend like we're okay. Like we were fine. Like we had a good relationship. We spoke to each other as friends, but inside I always had that feeling. But there was nothing that I could do, because anytime I tried, it would just be gaslighting that ended up bringing up all the triggers and all the pain up again. So the healer said, just leave it. And I did. And on this year in Jan, I went to Bali for 5 days. Prior to that, I was on a trip with my parents in Thailand, and I sat on the beach in Bali. I looked around, I started journaling, and I don't know why, my mom just came to my head, and I started thinking about it, and I realized the pain's gone.
Oh, wow.
Like, I just realized that knot of like resentment and pain and all of that, it was just gone.
Oh my gosh, which will serve you in so many other ways. Not holding that, like you say, that pain, that trauma.
And like, I couldn't have done anything to actually let it go. Like, I just couldn't have. It just did it in its own time. And like I thought about all the traumatic situations and all these memories, and I just felt nothing.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh wow, I think this is what the healer meant. Like, I've just stopped. And obviously my mom and I had spent a really nice time in Thailand 2 weeks prior, where we spent like every day together. Like I'll come home from the gym, we'll go get coffee, grab lunch, go to the beach. Like we hung out as friends quite a bit. And I did have a little bit of that weird feeling of when she tries to be too nice to me, I was like, what are you doing? Like, take a step back. Because I'm like, I get uncomfortable by it sometimes.
Because you've never had that
from her. Whereas like affection from anyone else, oh, kiss me, cuddle me all day. My mom tries to do it, I'm like, why are you being weird?
Because you find your body's going to that kind of like fight or flight, like is there an ulterior motive, or what's going on, or you just don't, it's uncomfortable.
Literally. So and then now it's come kind of full circle.
My gosh, that is so amazing. I think so many people listening to this will resonate with you. I think that motherhood wound is it's so relevant. It's so there for so many people, even if your mum has, well, most mums have done everything they can with what they knew at the time, with the tools that they had, but still there is always a deep motherhood wound. And as you're talking about your whole life before, I was just hearing independence. You're so independent. Do you think this has come from the relationship you had with your mom? Just be fiercely independent.
I think so, but also my dad's mom was a really good example of that. Like ever since I was a kid, she was the businesswoman on her grind, like doing all the things, going places. And I think I saw a lot of that as a kid. Even when I would go to her house, she'd be like, here are your toys, here's the paint, I've got business calls, be back. Like I always kind of saw that in her. And everyone says I'm a lot like her. She actually just passed. So
I'm sorry.
yeah, it's crazy to look back and like realize how many things you actually take on from someone. But I think I saw that a lot. And I think we are born with some qualities. I feel like the independence and the free spirit was just how I was born. Like I think it was what I saw, but it's just I feel like it's in my core as well.
Yeah. And your relationship that you've had with your parents, would you say that actually it's set you up to be the most amazing person? Well, because I know you're an amazing person that you are now. And actually, if you hadn't had that, maybe you wouldn't be doing, or you wouldn't be the person that you are now.
For sure, because I mean, even remember what Steven said yesterday. What did he say?
No man's land.
No. Oh, he was talking about. I think it was more God that asked people, "Would you take away the most painful trauma?" If you could erase the memory, and it's like, no, I wouldn't, because that's kind of where it comes from. And I had a very tough relationship with my parents when it comes to looks and my weight as well, which then put me on a completely different journey of modeling and getting into being in front of the camera and embracing the way that I am and building the platform that I have now and modeling. But it was through that trauma and through that pain as well. So I wouldn't take that back, because I have like so much space that I've created where I resonate with so many women, and so many women resonate with me.
Absolutely.
It's created this like.
So yeah, the next thing I wanted to speak to you about was your modeling career. And I have quite a few clients who are models, and we've had some guests that are models, and they've always really, really struggled with having their career, but navigating through the toxic diet culture, being told, oh no, you're too fat for this role, you need to go away, lose half a stone and come back, or whatever. And they've always struggled with, do I continue to pursue this like dream career knowing I'll have an eating disorder, I'll be miserable, or do I just leave and try something else, and my dream that they've it's shattered? Have you experienced any of that as a model?
I think it's a bit different for me, because obviously I do curve modeling. So it's where the industry is inclusive, and I've only really had good experiences, especially modeling in Bali, because of the majority of the brands there are very conscious, very inclusive, very like just sustainable, and they've got good ethos. Whereas here, even trying to get into agencies, like it's not as inclusive as it looks. Like they want you. Now there's a whole thing called mid-size, because a lot of curve models were like, well, if someone is between this and this size, they're not really curve. But then those people still exist, and they don't really fit the regular modeling industry. Like they're not a size 0, but then they're not a 16. So there is like the spectrum that was missing, and they created a new term, which is mid-size. And it's always going to be difficult, because you're always trying to fit into something that a brand wants. Like as much as we want to say there's no boxes, they still want you, if you walk the runway, they still want you to look proportional.
Yes.
And it's like, but not everyone has the proportions that we believe are proportional. Like who came up with the 90, 60, 90?
Yeah.
Like that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's always in the industry.
Yeah. And also with that, it's like the proportions, they change each year of what is the right proportion.
And I think this is the biggest thing I would say to anyone is you can never follow a trend. Your body is not a trend. You're born with bones and hip dips, and you get scars throughout life. You get into like accidents or whatever, you burn yourself. And it's like trends will never include everything that is human, right? Like surgery has become such a big part of people's lives now, and just the industry. And I have nothing against surgery. Like you want to get surgery, go ahead. But we also do have to understand what comes with making that choice and stepping up. Like adding something into our body, because so many people get implant disease. Like so many of my friends have got parents of friends have gotten implant disease, but we're not really told that, right? When we want to get like implants, or whenever we do any sort of like beauty enhancing surgery, I don't think we're told about the repercussions. But also it takes a lot of inner work to be comfortable with yourself as you are, no matter what the trends are, or what the society says. So before making that choice, I think it's so important to be like, I'm actually making this decision for myself and I'm happy with it and I'm content with myself. And I'm just making this decision because I want to, not because I'm so insecure. I need to change myself. I need to do this, because it's never going to be enough.
It will never be enough. Never. What is enough is your authentic self, which is so hard for some people to see and feel. But when I look back at my life, every time I've tried to be somebody else, tried to fit in there, tried to do that, it's never worked out. It's literally never, ever worked out. So just the final like few minutes here. But you just touched on your mum and then like your size and with the modeling. What was going on there with your mum? And you were saying about the comments with your size.
So ever since I was like maybe 14, you know, when you go through puberty and you start kind of gaining shape, or your body's just going through all of that, really, like you gain weight, you lose weight, you get a bit of a tummy, you get boobs and all of that. I was just fat shamed from very, very early on. I remember the first time my stepdad's ever made a comment, and I actually have a picture from that trip, and I look back and I'm like, this is actually crazy. Like, I full on believed what you told me at the time, but I was like the skinniest, smallest kid. And not that like I couldn't be or I shouldn't be. Like, there was nothing, none of the comments that he made sense. But even if they did, what he said was just so inappropriate, but it kept coming back. And it still does till this day.
So my question there was like, have you hit, like when you said earlier on the, I know this is more your stepdad actually than your mum, but when you said at Bali, like, you know, actually I felt no pain. Have you let go of that pain with him saying things like that to you?
I don't know. I actually don't know, because I worked through a lot of it, and I think a lot of it came from like part of what I healed in Bali was also my relationship with food, my relationship with eating, my relationship with exercise, like just my relationship with everyday life, and not getting anxious. Like I still get anxious eating in public sometimes. Like, especially if I'm out alone and I'm eating, I get anxious and I have to catch myself, and I'm like, you're fine, like you're okay. Like, you can eat, like it's fine. And yeah, I don't really know where I am on that bit. Like, I know whenever they make comments or jokes now, I'm just like, it's whatever. Like, it's definitely still a trigger, but it's like, it's whatever. Like, I love the way that I look. I love how strong I am. Like, training has been such a big part of my life. And yeah, like I feel good. And it's like my body, I have lost a little bit of weight in the last few months because I was training very hard, but my goal wasn't to lose weight. Like, I just trained lows because I was in Thailand and I was in that environment. I love it so much. And yeah, so I'm just kind of like at such a healthy point now where I'm like, if I gain weight, if I lose weight, it's fine, as long as I know that I'm healthy and as long as I know I'm taking care of my body. Like, I don't really care what anyone else says.
You've done extremely well to get to that place. I know people that have had this narrative growing up, and it's just so instilled, it's their core belief that they are fat or ugly.
I have friends like that as well.
And it doesn't go until you do that deep, deep work. And, you know, I have 50-year-old clients, 60-year-old clients, 70-year-old clients, and that's still their belief. And it's in terms of their self-worth, it's just so difficult. It's demoralizing. So you've done so well.
Thank you. I also think what comes with having those beliefs as well is we then like project them onto other people. And I think that's where society can get really harmful, is if you have those beliefs, you will make comments like someone I know once was like, oh, can't believe you thought I'm a size M. Like, I'm not that big. Like, I wear size S. And I was like, who told you that a size M is big?
Yeah.
And it was like the smallest comment, but it just straight away shows what someone like believes and thinks, but it comes out that way. And yeah, it's just.
Yeah. And that's it. They're not necessarily even realizing it's bad to say that.
Yeah.
They don't realize.
That's how society that ends up praising like one size or one look, is because all these people build these beliefs and then they come out in conversations or like slight little comments.
Yeah. So would you say their comments when you were growing up changed the way that you ate? Did you then, start dieting and start?
Oh, I had a horrible binge eating disorder. Like
Okay.
I used to, like I still have binge episodes now, but they're just so much healthier. And if they do happen, like I know how to control them and how to integrate. But yeah, no, for sure. I went through a stage where I was dieting a lot, not eating enough. I went through my vegan vegetarian phase. I went through my crazy fasting phase. Like, yeah, it's been pretty mental.
Yeah, it's so disruptive on your body and your mind. It's your nervous system, your stress.
You're growing up as well. Like when your body doesn't know much and it's going through like this, that. Like it goes through so much stress that literally takes years to rebuild. Like I think my body's still recovering from then.
Absolutely. I'm 35. I recovered from my eating disorder at 27. I can still tell that my body is severely traumatized by my eating disorders. Like, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but I can tell. It really is. Do not mess around with your body, guys. Yeah, so my body is absolutely still recovering, and that's like 8 years on, and who knows how long it's going to recover for. But yeah, I just think you should be so proud of yourself.
Thank you. You too.
Oh, thank you. But you've done really, really well because you are so young. You're 23 years old. And my God, when I was 23, no way was I.
It's so funny. That's like probably one of the most common phrases that I hear when I was 23.
Yeah.
And they're just like, you can see by the look on their face, they're like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
But the times have changed. My mom made the point of this as well. Like I told her, I was like, like I learned all of this and this and this, and like I had all these realizations and I did all of this healing. Like, why can't you? And my mom was like, do you not realize how many more tools you have? She's like, I didn't have these smart ass podcasts that I could just listen to. I didn't have these like women's circles that I could go to. Like that wasn't the thing. So
absolutely,
it's how the world is evolving as well.
Yeah. Do you think your mum has, if you're happy to share, do you think your mum has any difficult relationship with food?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
The woman is obsessed with weight and how she looks, and it's Eastern European culture as well. You gotta remember where I come from. Looks are everything.
Yeah, it's so often is passed down through the families, but you are now cutting that generational trauma with food. 10 years time, or if you ever do have kids, maybe you won't, but that's no more. That is gone because you've done the work. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That was really vulnerable for you to say that you're still having episodes. I think one thing to really remember to everyone listening with binge eating is the journey out of it. The recovery is not linear. And so many times you think you've recovered, and unfortunately there's so many lapses in it. But you will get there.
I think that's what was the hardest part for me, is like when I used to relapse back then, was to remember, like you just feel so helpless. You're just like, this is just my life. Like this is just how it's going to be. And whenever you make progress, but then you lapse again, you feel like all that work's gone to waste. But no, it hasn't. Like you get like a step closer to being better each time, like no matter whether you relapse or not. Like I feel like
you actually have to lapse to learn.
You have and to. You like, if you navigated like 1% better each time, or you learn something each time, it's that's what you can take
instead of sitting there in that that self kind of destructive mode. Think, okay, it's happened, what one thing can I remember that I thought or I felt before I ate, or continue to eat, or whatever it was. Okay, thank you. So what would you say to a 18-year-old girl listening who is feeling, had similar feelings to you, maybe had a difficult upbringing, or is at war with her body? What's your one piece of advice as a 23-year-old who seems to be smashing it in life?
Oh, thank you. I would probably say shut out the outside noise and just go inwards and focus on you. There's so much beauty within you, no matter what society says, what the trends say, what you think right now. Nourish yourself from the inside, because you are so unique. We are all so unique. Like there's no other version of you. So channel the power of that and go inwards. And I think when you do, you'll realize how grateful you are to be the way that you are. Yeah,
I love that. Absolutely. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining me on the Model Life podcast. And where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Amina _Karimovna.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, and then it's the same on TikTok. I've got a YouTube channel as well that I haven't posted in a while.
Yeah.
But I'm planning to get back to it, and hopefully a podcasting as well.
Oh yeah. Super, babe. Well, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for having me.
And have a fabulous day.